Ace's Wild, Dynamite Deliverance, Ep.5.
So last time we learned that Chance really does have a wife and kid, a kid who seems pretty fond of Chase too. I wonder where this leaves our nemesis now.
The smell of bacon and eggs carried through the air as Chase's head still writhed in pain. Climbing out of bed, he drew back the makeshift room divider. Everyone gathered at the table. Even Honey sat at a spot beneath, waiting for scraps.
Hey, come get some breakfast.
Yeah, I'm a-coming,
Chase replied begrudgingly as he went to join the others. An awkward mealtime commenced, but the food was surprisingly good, which made the environment even more strange. The table wobbled along with most of the chairs. Smoke from frying bacon filled the poorly ventilated room. None of the dishes matched, all a hodgepodge from various sets. But the food upon them made quite a spread. Along with bacon and eggs lay fresh fruit, grits, and rolls. Chase hadn't had a meal this good in some time. But as he sat there enjoying it, he couldn't help but wonder by what means it was acquired. After scraping the last morsel from his plate, Jack ran over to Chase and hugged him as if he was an old acquaintance. Then, kissing his mom goodbye, he grabbed his shoeshine box and headed out the door. Shaking his head at the confusion of the boy's sudden fondness, Chase spoke up.
Good kid.
Thanks.
Chance replied as he turned, looking inquisitively.
So what you gonna do now? I assume we're all squared up.
That's all it took to get Chase fuming.
All squared up? You left me for dead.
Are you talking about the bear incident?
Incident? Is that what we're calling it?
Well, what was I supposed to do? Fight a bear with my hands bound? In my underwear?
Yeah, speaking of underwear,
Chase replied, as the two took turns interrupting each other. From the kitchen, Tatsuo butted in.
You two fight like sisters.
As they continued to bicker, each tried to score points over who had done the other more wrong. Lying at Tatsuo's feet rested Honey, waiting for any dish scraps. When she finished the dishes, Tatsuo headed to the back door to toss out the dishwater. Honey trotted hot on her heels.
At least those two have made friends.
Yeah, about that. Tatsuo and her, they seem to be getting along great, and I don't think Honey is quite ready to travel yet. Do you think she could stay here a few days, and I'll pass back through and pick her up?
Pass back through? Where you headed?
I'm not quite sure yet. Reckon there's not much here in Copperton. I guess I'll be heading over the Cooper, see what bounties I can take up.
Well, you won't be making it there by sundown. Want to take in a game before you hit the road?
A game? I don't know about that, Ace.
Come on. I'll cover your first wager.
Cover my first wager? With the money you cheated me of, huh?
The two merely bickered for fun now, knowing Chase took his money back when he reclaimed his other belongings, way back before trailing Chance across the desert.
Well, I'm giving you a chance to win it back now.
All right, let's go. Maybe I can shake off this headache.
As the boys proceeded to the saloon, Tatsuo yelled,
No drinking.
when they went out the door. Luckily for Chase, she had agreed that Honey could stay to convalesce. Arriving at the saloon just as things were just beginning to open up, Chance took a seat at the head of the poker table and began to deal the cards. After playing a few hands, fairly this time, both started to loosen up. Chase learned that Chance did indeed work at the mine before it closed down. He worked there for about 2 years. When he was off the clock, he frequented the saloon. Spending most of his earnings on cards and drinks, it was here he met Tatsuo. Her parents ran the place while she tended the bar and waited on tables. Tatsuo was the talk of the town back then, always sporting a striking, colorful dress from the Orient. Frequently making passes at her, Chance got shot down time and time again. Then, one day a man named McGregor came to town, or back to town, that is. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Chance was sitting at the bar one day when, from upstairs, he heard Tatsuo's mom yell,
Sean's here. He's back.
Chance didn't know who Sean was at the time, but he could tell he stayed unwelcome. Continuing with the story, Chance explained that Sean was McGregor's first name, and that he popped into town every once in a while to play the tables and raise Cain. Chase also learned about the first time Tatsuo and her mom, June, met Sean. 6 years ago, he was nothing more than a thug, part of a gang of outlaws that traveled the lands taking what they wanted. For Tatsuo and her family one day, the taking pushed too far. A rare snowfall found Copperton that night. Jun and Tatsuo left the saloon early to beat the storm, while Tatsuo's dad, Kong, stayed behind to close up. Sean saw the two leave and decided he wanted more to warm him up than just whiskey. Getting in later that night, Kong found Tatsuo and her mother crying, having both been taken advantage of in more ways than one. Taking to the streets, he couldn't find Sean or his men in the storm, and by morning they were gone. Kong's effort to confront their assailant never came that night. 9 months later, Jack was born. Tatsuo and her family raised the boy with love, pushing Sean far from their minds. Eventually, the mental scars eased as they went on with daily life. But any hope of a normal life vanished in an instant when June announced that Sean was back. This time proved different, though. Riding back into town, he now led the gang, and he clearly did a great job of doing so. They all wore fancier, matching outfits and looked more organized than the ragtag gang of days past. Being well-funded and well-to-do, it wasn't long before McGregor purchased the saloon. Kong fell into a deep depression. He started drinking and grew angry all the time. Before long, he left town leaving only a note.
Find me in California.
Jun and Tatsuo did what they had to survive. For a while, Tatsuo continued working at the saloon, but it took a toll. Chance noticed the changes almost instantly. Her colorful outfits dulled into drab, and his prospects of scoring with his dream saloon girl became more probable.
You looking for a good time?
But not in the way he wanted. The two developed a friendship instead. Not long after purchasing the saloon, McGregor also bought the copper mine that Chance worked at. All new workers came in, shipped in on wagons by the gang, and most of the old quit. But Chance stayed until the bitter end. The conditions of mining fell from bad to worse, and the mine dried up quickly as they stripped it clean with the slew of new employees. McGregor also brought opium into town to help control the miners. He'd pay them to work and then have his men sell them the opium. Using his thugs as pushers, he'd recover all the money he paid out. When an employee got too strung out, he'd just let them go and bring in another. Chance remained lucky enough to never get caught up in the stuff. He preferred spending his money on drinks and cards. Eventually, McGregor moved on, leaving stock in only the saloon and opium shack. June stayed working for him, seeing little other option. Mostly, she stayed upstairs running the numbers, leaving the day-to-day business to other employees. Being a shell of a woman, she rarely talked to Tatsu anymore, probably because of the shame she felt working for the man that ruined her family. She did, however, rent the shack across the street and saw to it that a basket of food showed up on Tatsuo's doorstep each morning. Skimming off the top, she made sure McGregor paid for at least that much. Allowing Jack to shine shoes out front and Chance to run a poker table when he was in town were more ways that she helped out. That was as long as Chance didn't bring in too much attention, which he often did. When the mine closed down, Chance found himself without due course, and Tatsuo took pity on him. They started staying in the abandoned general store together. Jack began to see Chance as his father figure, and Tatsuo did as well. Friendship turned to companionship, and companionship to love. Chance now saw Jack as his own. Listening to the story, Chase couldn't help but feel pity for the family, and he began to wonder what would happen to Durnville. Looking at Chance, he asked,
So why no ensemble this morning?
Well, I'm gonna be scarce for a bit. No sense costuming up now. After our street brawl yesterday, June has asked that I lay low for a while.
Yeah, I can see that.
So after our game, I'm hitting the road. Think I'll go north and try my luck with cards. Let things cool down a bit. Again.
I guess this is a routine for you, huh?
I come and go, sharp some cards, come back a little richer, but yeah, I never stay too long. McGregor gets word I'm staying with his boy. Things might get a little out of hand. Things getting a little daring out there on the trail too, though. Seeing my bounty poster set me back a bit.
North, huh? Cooper?
Why, that an invitation, Mr. McCoy? I knew you'd warm up to me. Yeah, Cooper. I reckon in a town that size, they wouldn't know of a small-timer like me.
Uh-huh. Well, if we're both going north, might as well set out together.
Heading back home, Chance said his goodbyes to Tatsuo, while Chase gathered his things. Then Chase bid his own goodbyes to Honey, giving her a good petting. Chance tried to get in on the action, but Honey just growled at him. Then both gave their best to Jack in front of the saloon. Chance shared with him some private words, and the two men set off for Cooper. Outside, Chase mounted Nessie, while Chance mounted a black mare hitched next to her, a mare Chase hoped belonged to Chance. Before riding off for Cooper, they gave one more final goodbye wave to Tatsuo, Jack, and Honey. Excited, Chase couldn't wait to see Cooper, a town known for making the finest whiskey barrels. He hadn't been there since he was a child. Riding most of the day, they took turns telling tales. Chance was a talker. Before long, Chase knew his life story. He was a miner, as was his father, grandfather, and so on. There were stories of cave-ins, trapped gases, tumbling mine carts. Chance fancied himself quite the storyteller. Chase, on the other hand, spoke little of his army days. Really, he spoke little at all, preferring to listen more than talk, sharing only a few bounty hunting tales. One tale involved his most recent bounty that led to their meeting in the saloon, capturing Red Sky, the great Comanche outlaw. Before long, evening approached, and the two set their minds on finding a good spot for camp. Climbing off their horses, they walked about, looking for a good spot to spend the night. After wandering a while, Chance peered through some brush.
Hey, there's something over there.
Chase froze, his face ghostly white with fear.
Not a bear. Look.
Relieved, Chase peered through the bushes next to Chance. There in the distance was a campfire, a big campfire. No, a bonfire. With a...
Is that a cross?
Clan.
You mean the Ku Klux Klan?
Well, who else would be out here in the middle of nowhere burning a cross? We better get back on the horses.
Returning to the saddles, Chase started mounting up.
Come on, let's get out of here.
But Chance had another idea. Rummaging through his saddlebag, he pulled something loose.
Or...
Is that dynamite? What in the hell are you thinking?
I took it from the mine, just in case I ever need it.
Dynamite. Let's do it.
Neither of the two had a fondness for the Klan. Chase had run-ins with them in his war days, fighting for the North. Chance, married to a Chinese woman, had his own problems as well. Bringing the horses a little further up the trail, they hitched them to a tree. Then, they snuck back and through the brush, where they watched and waited for the cover of darkness. Sneaking closer and closer as night set in, they spied the white-robed, hooded men gathered around the fire. Seemingly at first, they just met, talked, and planned whatever nasty business Klansmen planned. Biding their time, Chance and Chase looked for the perfect moment to scare the daylights out of them. When all of a sudden, things began to move a little faster. A rope went over a tree branch, a figure was lifted from a wagon by several of the men, and a cotton sack found itself thrown off a black man's head. It was a lynching.
Move, move, move. I'll cut him loose. You cause a distraction.
Chase darted into the dark, flanking the hooded figures. Running through the trees, he circled the Klansmen gathered around the roaring flames. The excitement amongst the would-be lynchers knotted his stomach. Arriving at the back of the wagon, he waited for Chance's distraction. Chance took a less tactful approach. When he saw Chase in position, he marched straight for the Klansman. Letting out an ear-piercing whistle, he approached with fiery, fervent intent. The Klan looked to the whistle as Chance was picking up pace. Rising from the shadows, he became illuminated by flames. Holding the stick of dynamite, he looked like a madman.
Run!
Chase yelled, cutting loose the captive. Still marching forward, Chance lit the fuse, throwing the dynamite right into the crowd of Klan members. Debris of flaming logs and white robes burst into the air. Sparks rained down through a cloud of smoke. The black man disappeared into the trees while Chase and Chance bolted for their horses. The Klan, at least the ones who weren't writhing in pain, scurried in all directions. Hooting, hollering, and laughing, Chase and Chance jumped on their mares. Riding like the wind, they hoped they wouldn't strike a tree branch in the dark. After taking some time to catch their breath, Chase was the first one to speak through his laughter.
Ooh, wowza, the look on their faces when you lit that stick.
I should have asked if they needed a light.
It was further down the road when Chase realized he hadn't heard a sound like dynamite without going into shock since the war. Both men realized they hadn't had so much fun in a long time. Finally, far enough from the ordeal, they decided to make camp, choosing to sleep under the stars in case they needed to make a hasty retreat. Chance cooked up some beans while Chase tended the horses. Thankfully, the rest of the night stayed an eventless one. In the morning, Chase relit the campfire to brew some coffee. Sipping and talking, the topic of McGregor came up once more. Chase shared concerns about McGregor turning Durnville into another Copperton, while Chance wondered if there would be any place left unspoiled by the likes of McGregor's anywhere. Feeling extremely frustrated now, Chance decided something needed to happen.
What are we going to do about it?
He asked out of the blue.
About what?
About McGregor.
I don't think there's anything the two of us can do.
Chase responded begrudgingly. Disappointed, the two went quiet for a while as they packed up camp. They felt discouraged watching the destruction of their hometowns. Meandering around camp, they gathered their things. Sauntering over to the horses, they could feel their spirits breaking. Then, with his foot in the stirrups, Chance made a statement that would set the duo on an adventure like no other.
You know, I can get more dynamite.
Kaboom! Tell it again, would you? This was the best story yet. I can't wait for what's next. But at last, I guess I'll have to. For another 2 weeks anyways.